It is a Sunday morning in Auckland, New Zealand. The sun is shining, the city is waking up, and a man is shopping. He walks the aisles of a discount warehouse with a specific list of items. He buys a carpet cleaner. He buys trash bags. And he buys a suitcase. To the cashier, he is just another customer running weekend errands. Perhaps he's moving house. Perhaps he's going on a trip. But this purchase isn't for a holiday. The man standing at the register is 26-year-old Jesse Kempson. And the suitcase isn't for clothes. It is for a massive cover-up. Hours earlier, a young British woman named Grace Millane stepped into an elevator with Kempson. She was celebrating her upcoming birthday, traveling the world, and living the backpacker dream. The elevator doors closed at 9:41 p.m. Grace would never be seen alive again. But while Kempson believed he could erase her existence with a shovel and a suitcase, he made a critical error. He forgot that in the 21st century, we are never truly invisible. We leave digital ghosts. And sometimes, the physics of a crime scene tell a story that no amount of lying can hide. To understand the magnitude of this tragedy, we must first understand the life that was interrupted. Grace Millane was 21 years old, turning 22 the very next day, a graduate of the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing. She was a talented artist, a beloved daughter, and a sister. Like thousands of young people before her, Grace was embarking on her OE, her overseas experience. It's a rite of passage, a year of freedom, hostels, and self-discovery before settling into a career. She had spent 6 weeks traveling through South America, navigating foreign languages and complex transit systems with ease. She was savvy. She was careful. In late November 2018, she arrived in Auckland. New Zealand is often marketed as one of the safest countries in the world, a soft landing for solo travelers. Grace felt comfortable here. She stayed at the base backpackers hostel, made friends, and kept in constant contact with her family back in Essex in England. Her relationship with her family was the anchor of her life. She messaged them daily. Photos of her breakfast, updates on her hiking plans. It was this digital tether that would eventually alert the world that something had gone terribly wrong. On Saturday, December 1st, the day before her 22nd birthday, Grace matched with a man on a dating app. His profile seemed normal. He was 26, claimed to be a businessman connected to the oil industry, and suggested they meet for a drink. They agreed to meet at Sky City, a popular, well-lit entertainment hub. Grace did everything the safety manuals tell you to do. She met in a public place. She told a friend where she was going. She was open, optimistic, and ready to celebrate her birthday. She had no way of knowing that she was walking into a trap set by a predator who had spent years curating a false reality. It is early evening, December 1st. Grace leaves her hostel wearing a black dress and white sneakers. She looks relaxed. She walks to Sky City to meet her date, Jesse Kempson. The date begins casually. They visit Andy's Burgers. They drink cocktails. CCTV tracks them moving from bar to bar. To the casual observer, this is a successful first date. There is conversation, there is contact. They are seen laughing. At the Bluestone Room, a bar tucked away in a heritage building, they sit at a small table. The chemistry seems genuine. Kempson is charming, playing the role of the successful, worldly entrepreneur. He isn't. In reality, he is living in a precarious financial state, but Grace sees only the mask. They leave the bar and walk a short distance to the City Life Hotel, where Kempson lives. It is a serviced apartment complex, part hotel, part residential. They enter the lobby. At 9:41 p.m., they enter the lift. This is the last verified image of Grace Millane alive. What happens next inside apartment 308 is known only to 2 people. But outside, the digital world is waiting for a signal that will never come. December 2nd. It is Grace's 22nd birthday. It is also her father's birthday. In the United Kingdom, the Millane family waits. Grace always texts on birthdays. She is the type of person who sends the message the second the clock strikes midnight. But the phone does not ring. The messages remain on sent, never shifting to read. Social media posts wishing her a happy birthday go unacknowledged. A glitch in the matrix. For a backpacker in the age of constant connectivity, silence is louder than a scream. By the evening of December 2nd, the silence is deafening. Her family knows with a terrifying certainty that Grace has not just lost her phone. She has been taken. Within 72 hours, a missing persons report is filed. New Zealand police launch Operation Gurumi. They don't know it yet, but they are about to unravel a labyrinth of lies constructed by a pathological deceiver. Before we look at the investigation, we need to pause. In many cases we cover, the suspect's alibi relies on a lack of witnesses. I was asleep, they say. I was alone. But in modern forensics, we don't need a human witness to prove you were awake. We have what investigators call the data shadow. Think of your digital life as a seismograph. Every time you unlock your phone, search for a location, or even move, the needle scratches a line on the paper. When you are sleeping, the line should be flat. Jesse Kempson claimed that after they returned to the apartment, they engaged in consensual relations, fell asleep, and when he woke up the next morning, Grace was gone. He suggested a tragic accident or a mystery departure. But the digital seismograph of his night showed a violent earthquake. Let's look at the data shadow of apartment 308. At 1:29 a.m., while Kempson claimed to be sleeping, or while Grace was supposedly lying lifeless next to him, his phone was active. He wasn't sleeping. He was planning disposal. The Waitakere Ranges is a dense, bush-covered mountain range west of Auckland. But the data gets darker. This is the concept of foreseeability in digital forensics. Innocent people do not research how to dispose of remains in the middle of the night unless they have a reason to. But there is a second layer to this forensic puzzle, one that is often misunderstood: the physiology of asphyxiation. In court, the defense would later argue that Grace died during a consensual encounter that went wrong, specifically involving breath control. They claimed it was accidental. However, medical science draws a sharp line between risky play and lethal force. To render someone unconscious via pressure on the carotid arteries takes roughly 10 to 20 seconds. However, to cause death, to cause the irreversible brain damage required to end a life, that pressure must be maintained for significantly longer, often minutes. If the person goes limp, the natural human reaction is to release. To continue applying pressure for minutes after the person is unconscious is not an accident. It is a choice. The forensic pathology revealed deep internal trauma to Grace's neck. This wasn't a game. The data shadow proved he was awake and planning a cover-up. The pathology proved that the act itself was prolonged and deliberate. The physics of the crime scene were screaming what the suspect refused to admit. The investigation moved at lightning speed. By tracing Grace's phone location and CCTV, police zeroed in on the City Life Hotel. They identified Kempson. When they brought him in for questioning, he didn't ask for a lawyer. He tried to outsmart them. He spun a story. He claimed they went their separate ways at the hotel lobby. He claimed he went to a bar in Ponsonby and drank alone. But remember the CCTV? Police already had footage of him entering the hotel with Grace and never leaving that night. They had footage of him the next morning, buying the suitcase. They had footage of him rolling that suitcase, now heavy and strained, out of the elevator and into a rental car. On December 8th, 1 week after she vanished, Grace's remains were found in a shallow grave in the Waitakere Ranges. She was inside the suitcase. The trial that followed was a spectacle of pain for the Millane family. Kempson admitted she died in his room, but pleaded not guilty to murder. His legal team utilized a controversial strategy often called the rough play defense. The argument was that Grace had asked for it, that she enjoyed restriction of breath. They tried to put the victim on trial, scouring her dating history and private preferences to paint a picture of a woman who courted danger. It is a defense strategy that relies on a deep-seated bias. The idea that if a woman consents to intimacy, she consents to bodily harm. But the Crown prosecutor presented the cold, hard facts. The Google searches, the purchase of the suitcase, the fact that while Grace lay in his apartment, Kempson went on another date. Yes, the very next day, with Grace concealed in the room, he met another woman. He told her a story about a man who accidentally killed a woman during a romantic encounter, testing out his alibi on an unsuspecting date. This wasn't panic. This was sociopathy. The jury didn't buy it. It took them just 5 hours to return a verdict. Guilty. Jesse Kempson was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. But for months, the public didn't know his name. New Zealand has strict name suppression, laws designed to ensure a fair trial. Even after he was convicted, his name was hidden. Why? Because the police weren't done with him. Once Grace's story broke, other women came forward. 2 other victims who had survived encounters with Kempson. One had been subjected to a violent assault involving a weapon. Another had been forced into a non-consensual act. The name suppression was kept in place, so he could be tried for these crimes without the juries being biased by the murder conviction. He was eventually found guilty of all charges. He wasn't just a murderer. He was a serial predator who had been escalating for years. The murder of Grace Millane changed things. It forced a global conversation about the defense of consensual violence. In the UK, campaigners, including Grace's family, fought to ban this defense in court. They argued that you cannot consent to actual bodily harm, and certainly not to your own death. As a result, the Domestic Abuse Act was amended. This legal loophole is now largely dead in English law. But the tragedy highlights a terrifying reality of modern dating. Grace was safe. She was smart. She was tracked. She was in a public place. She did not fail. The system failed to stop a man with a history of violence before he escalated to murder. We often tell women to text when they get home, to watch their drink, to stay in public. We treat safety as a task list for the potential victim. But Grace Millane checked every box on that list. The question isn't what Grace could have done differently. The question is, why was a man with a history of violence against women free to swipe right? I want to hear from you. In the age of digital dating, do we prioritize the privacy of offenders over the safety of the public? Should past violent convictions be flagged on dating apps? Let me know your verdict in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and see you next time.